No, I agree with you. It should be left out.
Yeah.
I'm saying the parents' perspective of it all is that they don't want to take on that responsibility of teaching them.
Let's call it what it is. They're lazy.
100%.
They want to be entertained by those guys on Fox News,
Absolutely.
those guys on MSNBC. They want to watch American Idol instead of actually talking to their kids about things that are important.
We believe in all the F words: faith, family, football, and fitness. Check us out on the Richard Neese Podcast every Saturday morning on WKUL.
Please subscribe. Please help us out by growing the channel. We want to help good people get to a better place. Hey everybody, Richard Neese here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the Richard Neese Podcast.
Almost said it, didn't you? You almost said it.
The real set rundown was on my tongue.
I saw that R coming up. I was like,
I've got Dominic Gill here with me as always. Dom, say hey to everybody.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? I hope you all have a great and, we're getting to the Easter season, so I hope you all have a good and happy Easter coming up. By the time this is airing, it'll be on Saturday, which is Holy Saturday in the Catholic terms, and hoping y'all getting ready for the Easter Bunny and, of course, Jesus Christ is risen.
Amen. So we believe in helping good people get to a better place. We believe in cleaning up our community, and we solve the world's problems one podcast at a time.
One podcast at a time. That's right. We'll never come to a conclusion, but we'll solve the problems.
That's right. We were talking about before the show with Ron Mosley Jr. on WKUL, which we're so thankful to be on. A great radio station locally here in Coleman. We were talking about some of the challenges, some of the things going on in our local politics. We're talking about ways to solve our community problems. And I'm always going to come back to let's solve it at the lowest level. Let's have localism. Let's solve the problem, whether it's through a county-wide vote, a municipality vote. Let's try and find out what the people in the community actually want, instead of letting Montgomery or Washington, D.C. solve the problems or create more problems from what they're doing. What are your thoughts on that, Dom?
I definitely agree. I think the biggest issue that we run across in that right there is people aren't interested until it becomes too late for public discussion to take place in it all, whether it comes down to politics in a large level or small level. All of a sudden, everyone's an expert on tariffs. All of a sudden, everyone's an expert on government spending. You see it across the board that people get involved way too late instead of being proactive and being involved in these things and not being blindsided when something comes up.
That's absolutely right. So what I see on a regular basis is if you go to a town hall meeting, a local municipality, a city, a town, whatever that is, you usually have about 2 or 3 people. One is the reporter for the local radio station or for the local newspaper, and then you have the nosy Nancy that's going to be in everybody's business and trying to figure out what's going on, which I'm thankful that person is there, because a lot of times that person can be a whistleblower. It can be somebody that starts letting you know what's going on. But why are the average citizens not there? What are your thoughts on that, Dom? The average citizen, a guy that works 9 to 5, why is he not at the town hall meeting that affects him directly?
Because he doesn't believe it affects him directly until it does affect him directly. I mean, it comes down to where they're not aware of the meetings even happening. Most of the time, they're unaware of whether it's going to be on the 3rd Tuesday of every month or whatever it is. So they don't even know until something directly. They receive something in the mail about their neighbors are wanting to go and build a chicken farm right next to their house. Something like that. Then they'll get involved when it affects them personally. But then they'll have another neighbor, across, I say neighbor, it's another resident that's a mile away that doesn't affect them at all, that chicken farm is going to affect you, won't show up at all.
That's right.
Because it doesn't affect them personally. No one wants to get involved until it affects them personally, and they don't want to go in my opinion, it's more of a matter of they don't want to be bothered by the details and the knowledge of knowing, because they're too busy getting home at night, taking care of the kids, helping them out with their homework. They want to go and do the things, enjoy the little bit of their off time in order to spend it in a community event to help out, which, again, I'm not talking poorly about that person.
Sure.
They got a full life, but that's the ultimate what happens. I do think that people in power take advantage of that to make things happen.
To our civic duty, though, our civic duty. We all have civics class. I'm pretty sure even in homeschool, you have civics class or something of that nature. I know in public schools and private schools, they have civics classes talking about our government, understanding how it works.
I mean, I've had them.
That's right.
I've had them. I can't speak for every homeschooler. We're all different. So.
Right. Absolutely. We are very different. I'll say that. But what I keep coming back to is, like, I'm on this kick right now where I really see some of the tyranny that happens, some of the usurping of rights, especially liberties, whether that's through taxes, through regulations, things like that. And we can't even get people to show up for meetings. So what do you expect? Like, if you can't show up for a meeting, then somebody else is going to control your life on a daily basis. So where does that put us as Americans? I mean, we were the ones that we got mad about prices being too high on tea and taxes being a little bit too high with no representation. And we overthrew a country, or overthrew one of the biggest countries in the world, one of the most powerful nations, empires, and yet we're not paying attention to our local government. We're not involved in that. There's a real problem with that. I see that on a daily basis where, like I said, 1 or 2 people are actually at these town hall meetings. These decisions are made. And what's worse is you have one decision maker a lot of times up on the council that actually knows what they're doing, that's driving an agenda, and it's usually not for the best of all the people. I would rather see no progress than progress for one person moving in one certain direction against everybody else's will. That's what I keep coming back to as far as our government system. If you're not going to show up, you have to expect to get change. Just ask how big or what wrist size you need for those chains and those ankle chains, because that's what's happening on a daily basis. People are making decisions for you because you're not willing to spend 30 minutes a month, an hour a month showing up to a meeting. I've got a real problem with that, Dom.
No, absolutely. Well, what it comes down to is this everyone's so resistant, and what they would call is pain and toughness, and I was talking a little bit before about suffering and stuff, but it's not even pain or suffering. This is inconvenience.
That's right.
You know,
I'm missing Wheel of Fortune tonight.
Yeah. So a lot of times is that we're not even doing it because it costs something from us. It just inconveniences us just to participate in this right here. But we're quick to get on social media to complain about it, and now we're the experts on these matters about what's going to affect us.
I can't believe somebody would do this or that.
Yeah, you're going to grandstand on there in the protection behind your screen where there are no real consequences for anything in life. So you're safe to go and bitch behind the screen. I'm sorry, she's not like to complain about behind the screen about something, but you're not willing to go and actually do something about it. Just shut up. At this point, just shut up. Don't even post anything about it.
Yeah.
If you're not willing to go and be there to do something about it, I'm not going to say anything against any of the stuff going on or what I've seen. I saw bits and snippets of what's happening. I'll be honest with you. I kind of calling myself out here. I really don't know what's going on. But I'm not going to go on social media to say something about it, to go and talk negatively or positively about it. From what I've seen, it does look, it strikes me negative, but I didn't do anything about it. I don't have the right to complain about it. I don't have the right to go out there and say, oh gosh, this is terrible what they're doing to us. So we get screwed over every day by our politicians behind our back.
Yeah.
This is nothing new.
That's right.
Do something about it if this is something that's going to affect you before it's too late.
Well, and for folks that aren't local, we're talking about a bill that would basically allow, so Coleman County is a dry county, and we have municipalities that are wet, meaning they sell alcohol. A lot of places don't deal with this. We're in the Bible Belt. There's a lot of areas like counties, cities, places like that don't sell alcohol, and they believe in regulating a morality. I do not believe in that. I think that it's really a fool's way of doing things. But I live in this area. I think that there's some benefits to it, but I also believe in personal liberties and freedoms. And if I want to go drink a beer, I'll drink a beer. If I want to buy one locally, that's what I'm going to do. But there's more regulation in our area. So a lot of people believe in that around here. And so that's the place that we're in. Well, there is a resort-style property that's being built out, developed, and it's being annexed in or potentially annexed in so that one of the cities, the local municipalities, can benefit from that, from the alcohol sales and the tax revenue, things like that, because they're more advantageous for a developer, for a casino, for things like that. I've read the entire bill. I've read most of it, and it's very, very targeted. It's a state bill that is targeted for one development overall. Now, whether you like that or not, that's up to you. For me, I don't like government being that regulatory. I also don't like the fact that these people couldn't do this in a county because of a wet, dry law. That's where I have an issue too. So I'm kind of at odds with both sides of this. Give the county the freedom to do what they want to do as far as that area goes. Let's vote on it. Let's see. And if this city wants to try and annex in areas outside of contingency, outside of areas that get touched, then that should be across the state that's allowed, and not just for this specific development. Does that make sense, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's so much built up in this. There's so many people mad because they don't want to see the city of Coleman benefit from the revenue. The county wants to benefit from that, but the county hasn't voted to go wet, so that would be a negative. There's no casino or no development resort that is going to be dry. So there's a lot of at odds with previous policies versus what's actually going on now. And I think that we should take government's hands off of this and let the people decide, more of a democracy style as opposed to what's happening right now.
Well, I don't know too much about it to go and to say too much more about that.
Well, I think we can move on from that as a whole, from the SB 322. There's a lot of, I'd say, emotions tied up into it. I don't care either way. It's not in my backyard. NIMBY, you're right, not in my backyard. But I do see some precedents that can be set where you have legislators that put their fingers in personal ventures, whether that's they're actually in this development themselves or whether they're being backed by the people making the money off of this venture. I think we should leave it up to the county, leave it up to that area. But it brings me to my next point, which is if you don't like it, then you need to pay attention to who you're putting into office. I see this a lot where you have, whether it's a city council, county commissioners, whatever the case might be, where these folks aren't actually engaged. They don't know what's going on. They can barely read in some cases, but yet it's a popularity contest because, well, I was friends with his daddy and his daddy was a good man, so I think I should put him in office. That's what you're putting in place against these people that are multi-million, if not billion-dollar corporations. These people know what the heck they're doing, and now they're going up with that Bubba or Sissy or whatever it is that's a good friend of yours that can't even read a line item veto. They can't even read a budget. So how are they going to compare? How are they going to compete for your interest if they can't even read? That's the challenge that I continue to see. So what are your thoughts, Dominic, on local positions as far as the elections go? Do you think we have too many of them? Do you think that the power is distributed equally across the board? This goes back to what we were talking about earlier as far as being engaged. We don't have the right people in play that are actually stepping up in these positions.
Yeah, I definitely think that we probably have a little too many when it comes down to it. And I think a lot of it comes down to is that the pre-qualifications for these positions is not very... It's not set at a very high standard, just like you were just talking about. Like there should be some kind of standardized way to qualify people for those positions. And I also think compensation has to be to a point where they're less likely to be influenced by outside. I know maybe a weird take on that one right there to say, hey, we should pay our politicians a little bit more money. I don't have the right answer on that, but I do know that if you want to get something out of somebody or you want to put pressure on somebody, you definitely want to get somebody who's not making a lot of money. It's kind of like different managers in sales that I've talked to in the past. They talked about they like to go and hire salespeople who are in debt because they're willing to do a lot more in order to and to make something happen. They're willing to go and, I don't want to say blur the lines or cross a line, but more or less blur the line. I said that backwards. They don't mind finding someone who could blur the line a little bit to get a deal done in those situations. So I do think that if you got someone who's more susceptible to outside influences due to debt or a lack of income, you're going to have more cases of people with that income to influence what goes on in your city, your community. And again, it comes back down to why a lot of people elected our president is that because of his income that he didn't need to have, he was less likely to be bought. Now we don't know what's going on for sure, but that's my take. Probably 100% wrong on it all, but this is just a different viewpoint.
What I say on this was when our country was founded, you had a group of men that were independently wealthy that were stepping into these positions in legislation as public service. They knew that there was going to be a step down as far as pay goes, but they were willing to do that. But it comes back to me, for me, it comes back to the term limits. It comes back to where is this money coming from? We constantly talk about Doge and we talk about following the money. If I'm allowed to stay in a position for 12, 15, 20, 30 years, I'm really going to benefit from the decisions I made 20 and 30 years ago. And I'm going to be in bed with these big corporations and be in bed with anybody that's going to give me money on that side. If I've got a 2-year term, this development out on Smith Lake won't be done in 2 years, which means I'm not getting paid in 2 years. It's done. If I vote on this, that's fine. The next person that comes in right behind me, they have a different take on it all. So I'm not getting paid long term for this because I'm no longer of use for these corporations, whether it's some sort of gambling casino or whatever. I'm not getting paid anymore. So if you have these short-term stints, there is no financial incentive to vote yes right now and push the bill through because I'm not getting paid later on. They're going to leave me out to dry unless I'm still in a position to continue to benefit them, to still be bought overall. Now, so you put term limits on it and you put people, it truly is service. One of the reasons why I would really struggle to step into one of those roles is because it would put my entire company, multiple companies at risk. Like I'm steering the ship, and you're talking about 100 people that may not have a job after 2 to 4 years because I'm not actively engaging in my business. So if you start looking at shorter time frames and make sure that it is truly service, it eliminates some people who are looking to just kind of grift, but it also eliminates some folks that might step in and do a good job, but they can't because they're stepped away from their business. So I agree with the point that we probably need to pay these guys a little bit more so they're not as susceptible for being bribed. The other piece is you shouldn't get rich off of being a public servant. That's the hard part and a balancing act I really see.
Yeah, and I don't think there's ever going to be a true answer for it because anytime you have positions of power, people are going to try to use their money to influence that power.
That's right.
In one way or the other. So I don't think that there is a solution that's going to fix I don't think there's ever going to be a solution to this problem. Yeah. I really do not see a world unless we just completely eliminate people's inclination for deceitfulness and sin.
We've been trying for a long time.
That would be the most ideal situation, but unfortunately, we live in a world that's in a world that sin exists. So
I agree with that. So I continually come back to this. So a lot of this depends on what media source that you're getting your information from, right? So if this is right and left, and one side might say, oh, this is the best thing that ever happened to Coleman County because the revenue's coming in. If you're looking at another side, it may be this is terrible because it gives up all the autonomy of these smaller municipalities, or it's taking money from the county when you have one landowner that's going to essentially bring in 100 homes, and then they get to vote as if they were 100 people or 100 families. So it's important to understand what news source that you're getting it from, and I recommend get it from all. Watch CNN, watch MSNBC, watch Fox News, listen to 1819 News, look at AL.com. Understand that they're only telling you 20 to 30% of the truth in best case scenario, and you've got to decipher between that. But it all comes back to this. Well, looking at 5 news stations, that's pretty time consuming. Would you agree with that?
No, 100%.
I'm going to listen to the same story 5 times and then decide? Well, that's fine. If you don't want to do that, somebody else can decide your future. They're going to decide how your family lives, how your kids live, how your grandkids live. So it's up to us as citizens to step in and take part, or we need to accept the consequences.
No, absolutely. And in that regard, just something that just entered my mind about it all is that trying to select who's your thought leader in that process too. Making sure that those people, if you're not going to go through and study all the sources, at least study the one source and their track record on where their thought leader is about who you're getting that information from and the track record of that person in multiple different ways, not just on this one occasion. So for me, a lot of the people that I listen to gather, who I look towards to getting information on a national scale are people who are far less right than what the people around me, their influences are. So whenever I do listen to people like, for instance, Tim Pool is someone that I listen to a lot on the political spectrum. mainly because I actually feel like that he is not somebody that agrees with everything that I say. Yeah. He has some takes that are more progressive. But what I do find about him is that he looks at things very objectively. I find Joe Rogan does this as well. I wouldn't say he's not really one who's trying to influence people.
Yeah.
But I feel like that whenever you hear from people like them, that they're not looking at this and have a specific narrative that they're trying to spin, a certain ideology that they're trying to push. They're looking at something and they're wanting to just gather all the information and deliver that information to you.
Yeah.
And so it's important whenever you're going to look at any situation moving forward, that you try to find those more neutral sources and not just be subject to your own echo chamber or people that, that's what I want to hear. That's what I want to hear. And then again, that's what I strive to be as an influencer too, is to be somebody who tries to be very objective about what I'm bringing to the table and not really impose my own viewpoints on people. Now, I do it all the time still, but it is something that I strive for, is to actually try to deliver the information, offer my opinion, but then I'll, at the end of the day, say, decide for yourself and try to decipher the truth, what it is. Because many things I say probably daily that's incorrect.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's not create these echo chambers. Let's get multiple perspectives in the same room, and let's have a real conversation. That's what I keep coming back to. I am so sick and tired of watching Fox News, of watching MSNBC.
Oh, you watch those? I don't.
Neither one.
Bring on the other side's point of view and berate them the whole time. Let them speak. And then let's take it for what it is and say, okay, I see what you're saying there. I don't agree. Like I can take this as far as abortion, right? Abortion, I can have a discussion with somebody that's left-leaning, really left-leaning, that's pro-abortion. The point that we have a divide is it is your body until it is somebody else's body. I believe life begins at conception. And so if that is true, then what you're saying is not true. And we can disagree at that point. I don't have to call you the meanest, ugliest things. We disagree, obviously, but I'm going to protect a child is what I'm going to do. Now, on the other side, if we have a point and you give me some sort of ideology of, well, it makes sense to tax because of X, Y, and Z, I may agree with you on that. Let's talk about that. Let's have this discussion, or let's see if there's an alternative. Instead of taxing me, why don't you let me invest in those things? Let's look at that perspective. So let's have multiple opinions in the same room and let's discuss it without berating each other. I know you had an idea over there. What were you saying?
No. It was about the newscasters. A lot of times they're berating each other. I mean, that's just entertainment. That's
a valid point.
Yeah, I mean, that's just the entertainment part.
Isn't that the problem, though?
Yeah, no, they obviously, you're going to go and you're going to find the right-leaning sources, and they're going to bring a left-wing, semi-intelligent dummy who's going to bring up their valid point. That they're going to bring up their talking points, but they're going to defend it very poorly in order to go and reinforce your echo chamber of that audience. Because if they start pissing off their own audience and start shifting the narrative in a very, very obvious way, they're going to start losing that audience.
That's another point.
And the same way on the other side, whether it's a left-leaning organization, they're going to bring their right-wing, semi-intelligent dummies who's there, mainly there to be that punching bag to get hit. So whenever you see these discussions, they're a lot of times they're plants. They're all working for the same side. I mean, it's controlled opposition ultimately.
What I'll say is I watch Bill O'Reilly a good bit. I like Bill because I feel like he is probably more libertarian than anything else. I do know he's conservative in that sense, but I think he's more liberal on the social issues, which I'm not opposed to.
I agree with that.
I think the biggest issue that I have is killing children, killing babies, when I believe that it's a certain conception is when life begins. But outside of that, I heard him have an interview, and you guys should check it out. He's had multiple with Stephen A. Smith. You know Stephen A. Smith?
Oh, yeah. I know. I've heard some of their interviews in the past.
So it was so impressive because you can tell that they don't agree with each other, but they can respectfully disagree. They both had different points. They both gave credit where credit was due. And then at the end, they said, I agree on that. I don't agree on this. That was a good conversation. What I got out of that was more than watching hours of Fox or MSNBC because you had valid points going back and forth with true discussion. Let's have more of that. I would like, in Coleman County, whoever left-leaning or right-leaning, whatever that is, if you're willing to have a discussion, let's have one. It can be on this podcast. It can be eating donuts at Daylight Donuts. It can be at Allsteak. I don't care. Let's truly talk. I would love to have some of my more left-leaning people in the community. Let's discuss it. I want to understand why you think that the government should have certain rights that you think they have. Why should they take rights from me for certain reasons? I want to understand that. On the other side, on the right, I want to understand why you think that we should have Jesus Christ in every public school system, because I don't agree with that. And anybody that wants to hear about that, I'm glad to tell you why, because I don't want Allah in all of these public school systems. I don't want Buddha in the public school systems. I don't want public school systems, period. But I understand the position that we're in, and we can't make these changes right now. If you were left-leaning, if you're right-leaning, if you're libertarian, I want to have a discussion. Let's get 4, 5, 10, 50 of us in the same room, and let's have a discussion about these big-ticket items. And let's not try and move somebody from their position. Let's just try and add some clarity to why you think a certain way, why I think a certain way, because we can't have that in the public media right now. It's not present. Have you seen it?
No. And again, it's all about it's all about
it's all about money. It's all about ratings. Let's not say it's all about a setup. That's what it's about. It's about stealing your money.
Yeah. Now, I can't disagree with the word that you're saying on that, and I do agree with you about religion and in school too. Again, that's
it should be taught at home. That's where it should be taught.
Well, it should be first of all, it should be taught on the pulpit.
Absolutely, rolling into the pulpit.
Yeah. So when he's talking about the education for the people, and again, I think ultimately there's a lot of failures from the pulpit, and that's not just speaking specifically about the Catholic Church either. But yeah, no. What you do is, when it comes down to that, I think that is when you start subsidizing the parents' role to the teachers and stuff. And again, we talk about the school system so much, but again, I think that it comes down to where people want it in schools because they don't want that responsibility. They believe in the Christianity, but they're so used to handing off everything to the school system to teach them the basics of everything that they want that pushed down to the children as well.
Then we just talk about that with civics, and now it's religion.
Absolutely.
And then it's genders, and then it's just...
No. I agree with you. It should be left out.
Yeah.
I'm saying the parents' perspective of it all is that they don't want to take on that responsibility of teaching them.
Let's call it what it is. They're lazy.
100%.
They want to be entertained by those guys on Fox News.
Absolutely.
Those guys on MSNBC. They want to watch American Idol instead of actually talking to their kids about things that are important.
I agree.
I struggle with this so much. I'm not a perfect parent by any means. I'm not a perfect citizen. I'm not a perfect man. But what I continually see is people saying they're stuck behind this screen right here. They're stuck behind it. They live right here when their kids are on the other side of it. And they're giving up all of their responsibilities and their freedom by passing this off. And it happened in my generation as a kid when we started getting in front of video games, before we get in front of these series, and we're just so connected with it. We've talked about release before. We've talked about ways of settling down, chilling out, relaxing.
Absolutely.
But when it takes away from your life, there's a problem there. So why?
If you're living for the pleasure instead of living for the life that you're building, living for your own career, your own family,
building out. I mean, look at The Sims and look at Meta and the way that they're moving.
Oh yeah.
I mean, they're moving into virtual reality. We're going to be Johnny Quest soon. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh yeah. No.
100%. Living in another world while sitting in one spot, and that quickly becomes what? The Matrix.
Yeah.
Let's really think about all the stuff. You think about 1984. And how that has come true, the book 1984 and a lot of those Orwellian novels, well, The Matrix could just as well become the same thing as Orwellian novels for the next 20 years. So start thinking about that kind of stuff and how engaged we are with this machine in front of us that's taking over our life. Man, that really spiraled quickly.
Oh, 100%. Golly. This started off really nice and gentle. It just went down this road.
So here's what it comes down to. Take control of your life. Take responsibility. It's going to suck a little bit because you have to stop being a child. You have to actually start taking a responsibility for your life, for your family's life, for what's going on. And that starts in the home, and then it goes into the government class, and then it goes into the town halls, and then it goes into Montgomery, and then Washington, D.C. You have to take control. And if you don't, then don't complain about being a slave to society, a slave to what we have going on right now. Dominic in prayer over there?
A little bit. It's Good Friday, and I just saw the clock was 3 o'clock, so I just had to say it did 3 o'clock on the dot. Yes, sir.
Well, Dom, I think we're coming up on the end of the radio show. I'll let you kind of finish it up. I've been on fire the past few weeks, so I'll calm down, drink a little water, and cool off.
Yeah, absolutely. So Rumble channel should be up and running by the time that this is coming out here. So be sure and watch us on check us out on YouTube, Facebook, all over TikTok, Instagram. The YouTube shorts have been popping off a lot lately. Been getting the steady view counts that we've been getting on those. It's nice to see those numbers start to tick up on that right there. Guys, please like the videos. Please subscribe to the channel. We want to go and provide as much value to you as we can. We want to build out more of these channels. We want to help you. We want to be your new echo chamber. That's what we want to be.
Yes. We don't want echoes. We want good opinions. We want to get different perspectives. Even though we're in the Bible Belt and we don't have a lot of diversity where we're at, we want to hear diversity. We want to understand why you think the way we think. I don't have to agree with you. You don't have to agree with me, but let's at least talk.
Oh, trust me, there's not many people who do.
That's it. We hope you guys have a great day. Okay, turn it off.
Okay.